Hello and welcome to today's 47th webinar in the On the Move webinar series, Pallet Conveyance, Let AMRs Do the Heavy Lifting, brought to you by Honeywell Intelligrated. I'm Tracy Niehaus, Director of Marketing for Honeywell Intelligrated, and I'm your moderator today. We have just a few announcements before we begin. You may ask an online question at any time throughout today's presentation in the Q&A feature on your screen. Simply type your question into the text area and hit submit. Questions will be addressed at the conclusion of the presentation with the exception of technical questions that can be asked and will be answered real time. Please note that we recommend that you be hardwired when attending today's webinar. A Wi-Fi connection may result in lag times in slides loading, graphics loading, and videos playing. Today's webinar also includes polling questions. Please feel free to answer these questions when they appear and be sure to click submit so we can include your response as we will be sharing the results real time during this live event. If you'd like to revisit key sections of today's webinar, it will be available on demand at sps.honeywell.com by clicking on the resources link under the automation support section a few days after this live event. You'll also receive an email in a couple of days with a link to the recorded event. Now on to the presentation, Pallet Conveyance, Let AMRs Do the Heavy Lifting. Discussing today's topic will be Sonia Jose and Eric Hardy. Sonia is the Robotics Solution Offering Manager and brings extensive experience in automation and mobile robotics with her. In her current role, she is responsible for mobile robotic and each picking solutions. Prior to joining Honeywell Intelligrated, she held a senior product management position at Bossa Nova, where she was responsible for robotics, including market intelligence and go-to-market strategies. Eric is the Vice President of Robotics Solutions Offering and brings more than 18 years of international experience to Honeywell Robotics with a strategy and marketing background in industrials and technology. In his current role, he is responsible for developing and executing the robotics offering, ranging from fixed robotics to mobile robotics in e-commerce, retail, parcel, and micro-fulfillment environments. And with those introductions, the webinar will now begin.
All right. Thank you, Tracy. So we want to start with sharing some of the challenges we see in the market today. Some of the key drivers that are increasing e-commerce demand and straining fulfillment include the pandemic, which is not surprising. With more people staying home, there's a growing convenience of online ordering, and with that, more diversity of SKUs, and an increase in direct-to-consumer orders. So all in all, we're seeing the movement of more goods than ever before. So next, moving goods within warehouses requires a significant amount of labor to operate forklifts, pallet lifts, and jacks. This leads to a lot of repetitive and wasteful operations. Another major challenge is that worker turnover in the industry is more than 33%, and a significant percentage of that workforce is older than 55. Costs to frequently train new employees can quickly add up. Even before the pandemic, there were only enough workers to fill 1 in 6 available positions. So scarce labor is increasingly becoming a major concern. Although forklifts are capable of moving heavy loads, qualified drivers require training and certification and can be hard to come by in today's tight labor market. There's also one of the leading causes of warehouse injuries. An average of 35,000 serious injuries can occur and up to 62,000 minor injuries each year, according to OSHA. That's at least one accident per year for 11% of all forklifts currently in the use in the U.S. Conveyors can also reduce the need for human labor, but they're also a fixed asset. They lack the flexibility to respond to changing market conditions or workflows. They're not always practical for factory floor plans or smaller facilities like micro-fulfillment centers. All right, so with that, we'd like to hear from you. What is the biggest challenge you are facing in your operations today?
So thanks, Sonia. I see some people are answering the question now. Look forward to seeing the results. Hi, everyone. This is Eric Hardy. Getting some good response now, about 44% of attendees.
All right, great. So not surprisingly, a lot of you are facing labor challenges today.
Yeah, so if we go back to that, well, I guess the number one that I saw there was labor challenges, and surprisingly, I saw that safety was on the lower end, and we go back here, delays in error processing, I think, was number 3. So interesting to see how that played out. We'll have to discuss that more as we get into it. Definitely labor challenges are the number one thing that we see out there as well. So what I'll do is talk to you about our solution and the way we look at solving these challenges that you see out there, including the labor challenges. Solutions to all these challenges can be provided by our autonomous mobile robots, or AMRs for short. We use state-of-the-art robots supplied in collaboration with our partnership with Fetch Robotics. That allows on-demand automation and can be deployed quickly for multiple workflows in any facility with minimal IT and infrastructure changes. So let me jump into that some more. Specifically today, what we're talking about is moving pallets. And pallet conveyor robots here are available in 2 different sizes. There's the Freight 500, which you see on the right here. The Freight 500 handles cases and similar pallets up to 500 kilograms, and the Freight 1500, which you see on the left, that handled standard 40 by 48 inch pallets with a payload up to 1500 kilograms. And one of the things that we talk about a lot is safety. With Fetch's offering, it offers uncompromising safety. Both of these models and sizes that we talked about before safely avoid obstacles, workers, and equipment by leveraging many of the same technologies that are used for self-driving vehicles. So 360-degree vision with no blind spots, using 8 3D cameras, 2 LiDAR sensors, and offering the industry-leading dynamic obstacle avoidance technology. So it's a certified hardware-based safety system, and it is smart enough to avoid people and vehicles, forklift tines, and other obstacles. That results in fewer injuries and less product damage moving about your DC. And it can navigate and reroute independently and cooperatively within the existing warehouse or your manufacturing operations as well. So fewer forklifts are needed for transport. Our view is, let's take the transportation, move that onto the mobile robot, and have them do the long haul, low value added transportation in the facility. So this cost-effective solution increases your operational savings by reducing or eliminating the number of forklifts in the facility to meet your business requirement needs. This helps you save on equipment and labor costs. It also enables continuous operation and further optimizing the goods movement by connecting seamlessly to MES or your WMS system through our Momentum software, which I'll talk about later. This maximizes your overall facility utilization and helps to eliminate errors and wait times. Additionally, it will free up your scarce worker or laborers to do more value-added activities. And then because of its mobile robots, we can scale up or down as needed to support peak times and also future-proof your operation. As I mentioned before, we have our Momentum integration layer, or Momentum software, with our warehouse execution system that will seamlessly coordinate pallet movement throughout your entire facility. And we use Momentum to work across our different offerings, from machine control to labor management to voice to connected assets from Honeywell. And that is our interface into the AMRs working with Fetch Robotics. All right, so now to our next polling question here. we're going to go through the different use cases or applications that we see in the space. But before we do that, wanted to do a quick poll and get from yourselves what you see as the where you would need help to improve your operations and facility in your facility. So if you could go ahead and submit your vote. So right now, tallying up the votes. So if we think about it, it's cross-docking, replenishment in the DC, moving equipment or moving pallets from the palletizer, the stretch wrapper, or the pallet crane, so transferring it out of there, empty tote and pallet returns, as well as recycling or trash removal, and then other warehouse transportation needs as well that we'll get into. All right. So largest was the palletizer wrapper crane transport, so transporting after that. About 55% of the audience voted for that. Replenishment and then cross-docking. So we'll walk you through each one of these in a little more detail throughout the rest of the presentation. All right, so let me dive into these use cases. So let's take a look at some of the common use cases for pallet conveyance AMRs. And I want to point out, we're not talking about science fiction here. These are all applications that can be deployed in the real world and deliver measurable results and fast return on investment for you guys today. All right, so in the warehouse, there's various transportation scenarios. So AMR can move palletized products to storage locations after unloading. It can also be used to maximize the utilization of your workers and forklift operators by taking on these repetitive tasks and freeing up your workers. And while the AMRs can be loaded, so AMRs can be loaded directly with a forklift onto itself and then onto a pickup delivery station. That enables some smooth operations and allows your forklifts to work independently. So let me actually show you a short video here of what that operation looks like with the P&D station. So here you have a forklift loading the pallet onto a P&D station in your facility. Here we have the pallet transport 1500 moving the facility with a lift on top. That is going to go underneath that P&D station and pick up that load and be able to transport it to wherever else it's needed in the facility. Now this can be directed using HMI interfaces, also through our through WES, our momentum software, and enables more seamless coordination, and being able to match those locations as well within the DC, so the pickup and drop-off locations. All right, so this is what I talked about before. So the explanation of the P&D station, robots pick up the pallet here, and then they drop it off in reverse. That'll allow you to free up your forklift workers to do value-added operations, such as putting it onto that in the first place, and then unloading from trucks and loading into trucks as well, or loading it into the aisles. So cross-docking. Our approach to cross-docking, this enables seamless pallet movement within the facility. It's similar to what we talked about before. Our approach is have the forklifts focus on the value-add work that they do the best, which is going in and out of trucks, and then loading them onto the P&D stations, and then letting the AMR do the long haul of transporting that pallet to the shipping dock, and then loading that shipping dock onto the, so it transports to the shipping dock where it loads it onto a P&D, and then the forklift operator or forklift unloads it from the P&D station and puts it into the truck. So thereby you're concentrating your forklift fleets into just the loading and unloading of the containers or trailers, and having the mobile robot do the long haul transport. Next is palletizer, wrapper, and pallet crane load transport. So what we do here, the pallet can be transported from the palletizer or the wrapper using pallet conveyor, or just coming off of that onto a P&D station where the mobile robot will go underneath, pick that up, and then transport it into your transport it to wherever it's needed in the facility. So that could be moving to a P&D station that's in the inventory in your inventory locations, or being moved into the the shipping area as well. Now, empty pallets and returns. Here, what we've seen in some locations, pallets are stacked up, and then they need to be transported. So once the pallet is unloaded, you have the empty pallet or an empty tote. That can be stacked up in an area or stacked up on a P&D station, and then the mobile robot can go in there, grab those empty pallets, and move them to where they're needed and where they can, well, into where they're being used and where the pallet's being made. So generally what we see is that can be from shipping after the pallet is, or actually could be shipping, could be after the pallet is unloaded into your material handling system, and then back to the shipping docks where they're being unloaded, and really making that a seamless operation, connecting that with Wes as well. Next is recycling and trash removal. So oftentimes what we've seen, there is a baling process of where you're collecting your corrugate and bundling that up. AMRs can be used to move that for your facility into one location for processing, and really speed up that and allow a person to do more value-added activities rather than pushing a cart or moving that throughout your facility. The next operation can be combined with picking technology. So with Honeywell, we offer voice picking that will allow you to build pallets onto a AMR. You can also use RF technology as well. And what that means is have the pallet to AMR pull up, have your associate or an employee pick a case onto that pallet, and really build out a pallet to be transported to your facility for further processing. So as you can see, Pallet Conveyance AMRs help you overcome many challenges, from meeting throughput targets to increasing your profitability and achieving the future-proof scalability that you need to reach the DC next level. Honeywell Robotics provides a complete turnkey pallet conveyance solution, including optimizing that design and intelligent routing, seamless software integration, installation, commissioning, and support, as well as the maintenance and technical support that we have going on. Plus, we have our Momentum software, which provides user interfaces and overall coordination with the facilities. This is a cost-effective way, this combination of solutions, to really improve your flexibility to meet e-commerce needs and the proliferation of SKUs. Also help you to maximize your productivity of your labor and processes, countering labor pressures, and also safety on workplace accidents. So with that, I'll move on to the next slide here and open it up for any questions.
All right, thank you so much, Eric and Sonia. I will switch now over to the Q&A portion of our event. And as a reminder, you're able to ask an online question in the Q&A feature on your screen. I do have a couple questions that have come in, so I'll go ahead with those. Okay, so our first question is, how long does it take to deploy a fleet of pallet conveyance AMRs?
Sure, I can take that one. So it's going to depend on the complexity of the solution. If the solution only requires AMRs, once the robot arrives at the facility, they can be fully operational and working within just a few hours of setup.
All right, what is the optimal number of AMRs and pickup and delivery stations?
So thank you for that question, Tracy. What we do is we have our team of sales professionals that works with you, and consultants, sales professionals and consultants that work with you to evaluate your current workflows, the distance being traveled, and what are your throughput needs. We then recommend working with us to work on the number of bots based on your needs and to determine what the optimal AMRs and pickup and delivery stations are. What we do there is we run that through our modeling that we have, that we work closely with our extensive experience working in the DC space and being able to estimate your needs based on workflow standards that we have as well. And we run that through our models and work with you to figure out the best combination of that. We also offer simulation services, which will help us simulate what that looks like in your workplace environment.
Okay, let's see. You said during the presentation that robots require only minimal infrastructure. What exactly is required?
Yeah, so actually there's not much infrastructure required at all. In terms of what you need, it's just the AMRs and Wi-Fi access. And once you have that, we can take care of the rest.
Okay, next question is, how easy is it to add additional robots as your operation grows or to retrain robots if you expand a facility? If we expand a facility, sorry.
Yeah, so it's really easy to add additional robots here. Once the robot's connected to the facility with Wi-Fi, we're able to add more to the existing map. The first step in setting up your process will be mapping out the facility. So what we do is we drive the AMR through your facility, which creates a map, and then other robots can be added to it using the same map. Then once we modify the workflow through the software platform, the robot is able to adapt immediately to that. And that also works with adding new kind of fixed infrastructure or to the facility. We can remap that, and all the mobile robots will see that as well.
All right, moving on to the next question. Could you tell us a bit more about how AMRs can be used to support picking operations?
Sure. So the AMRs are able to be integrated into existing barcode scanners or voice technology, as well as it could utilize tablets or HMI screens to also be used as a trigger for the robot to arrive at a specific location as well.
All right. Let's see. About how much space would we need to allocate for robot recharging stations or standby areas?
So that's going to vary with the difference. Yeah, go ahead, Sonia.
Oh, no, I was going to say similar answer. So, yeah, it's going to vary depending on the facility, but it requires minimal amount of space required.
All right. Well, I think that is all the questions that we have and all the time that we have for questions. Thanks.
Actually,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I wanted to add, I think there was a question on recharging and how long that takes. That will also depend on the application and how much load is used or electrical load is used by the robot as it's moving heavier loads. The robot's able to operate for 9 hours with one charge, and it charges in less than an hour.
All right, thank you for that. So now that concludes our questions. So thanks to all of our attendees for their participation. And also as a reminder, in a few days, you can access this presentation on demand at sps.honeywell.com by clicking on the resources link under the automation support section. You will also receive an email with a link to the presentation, as well as with a link to our white paper, Optimized Workflows for Mobile Robotics. There's also a related content area on the webinar platform that includes more information about robotics and pallet conveyance, as well as our most recent issue of our On the Move publication. On behalf of Honeywell Intelligrated, thank you to Eric and Sonia for a great presentation, and to all of our attendees for joining us today for this On the Move webinar. We hope that you can join us for our final webinar in the March series, How is Productivity Created? Find the answer in labor management software. That will be on Tuesday, March 30th at 2 p.m. Eastern. Registration information is available on our website at sps.honeywell.com by clicking on the resources link under the automation support section. So thanks again for joining and have a great afternoon.
Thanks for having us.